Not a game. We talking about practice.
Now it's time for the takeover.
Buckle up for Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant just sucked the gravity out of the target center.
Not the game. We talking about practice, man.
That third strike play. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Oh, what a shot from Curry. Diggs, sideline, touchdown.
The return to glory.
Now it's time for the takeover.
Well, Dick, here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence. If you ain't first, you're last.
And there you have it, folks. It's episode 162 of the Takeover Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Sieckert, and it's another great day here in the Treasure Valley and a great time to watch this episode. And the man that's making it happen behind the scenes, some of the editing, the recording, the lighting, Sean DeVille. How we doing, my man? How's your summer going?
I'm doing great. Summer's going pretty well. Yeah. It's miss football, miss sports in general. I mean, I like baseball, but it's not the same.
It's just such a long season.
Yeah. It's a pastime, but it's not my favorite to tune into every night.
But the Hall of Fame game was here.
Yep.
It's August. Fall camp is underway in the NFL, college football. And speaking of college football, and Sean, it's not about us. You know, this is great. You know what we're doing right now. Yeah. But I don't know if you guys read the title of the video. He's not Jeramiah Dickey. I'm not Jeramiah Dickey. Mr. Hashtag Built Different, Hashtag What's Next, the 2025 FBS Athletic Director of the Year, Jeramiah Dickey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me, and congrats on 160 plus shows. That's amazing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Always trying to figure out, what's next? What's the next episode? Who's the next guest?
Yeah.
And before we, dive into what's next going forward, let's go all the way back. 2004, University of Texas, Jeramiah Dickey throws his cap up in the air, sports management bachelor's degree. Yeah. What was the dream job coming out of college for you?
So a little more history.
Ooh.
I technically walked in 2003. I had to get an internship to finish my degree program.
Okay.
And that's what led to me going to UTEP. So I actually officially graduated while at UTEP, finishing my internship and my degree program. And, so taking a step back to my last year in Austin really was the last 2 years. You come to these crossroads and, maybe like most fans, I didn't really realize what college athletics was. And, and through friends and family and people who cared about me, was able to make some connections and found this career that I'm so grateful for. And it's amazing, the people that are put in your life and those crossroads you come to that leads to moments like this and to achieve your dreams. I had defined at that point in time that I wanted to be an FBS athletic director, and the degree was one of many steps, but, I'm very goal-oriented and put everything down in writing, and that led to UTEP and many other stops along the way that prepared me for what's next and leading the Broncos.
Because, I was going to say, it was quite the journey. Then you went from UTEP to Akron, looks like for 3 years. Yeah. Assistant Athletics Director of Development. How was your time in Akron?
I loved Akron. It was interesting. Cleveland, Akron it's probably the equivalent of Caldwell to Boise, right?
Okay.
And so we would go to Cleveland quite a bit, and everyone in Cleveland would talk so negatively about Cleveland that I think as an outsider, I really enjoyed it. You had we don't call them the tribe anymore, but you had the tribe, you had the Browns, the Cavs, LeBron was there, as a young guy in the industry that wasn't married and didn't have kids and really just had this job at that point. I had a great time, met some lifelong friends that I still stay in touch with, and met my wife. She worked in the athletic department. She also came up a similar path that I did, and she was on the marketing side. I was on the development side. She did not report to me, and I did not report to her. Just in case HR there is listening. That was a while ago, but I believe everything happens for a reason. And I had followed Mac Rhodes from UTEP. I think that's important as a young administrator to align yourself and hitch your wagon to someone that you think highly of and who is going places and willing to mentor and lead and pour into me along the way. So I had a great time in Akron, but I had very specific goals: 3 years, move up or on. And I had done my 3 years there, and I had opportunities at Akron, I had opportunities at Coastal Carolina, and I had opportunity at the University of Houston. And once again, I followed Mack Rhoades. I believed in him and his vision and what he wanted to accomplish there.
Okay. And so then you were at Houston for 7 years.
I was.
Because, your plan was like, hey, 3 years, move up or move out. But you thought, what, was Houston going pretty good for you for those 7 years?
Houston was. When we first got there, Houston was known as a sleeping giant. And you've seen what they've become. And that all started back with Mack, and Hunter ended up becoming the athletic director there. And very fortunate to be a part of that team. I actually brought Jake Mencken, who runs our RevGen space. Him and I crossed paths at the University of Houston, and I brought him over. He was at Alabama at that point when I got here. But I learned so much as a young administrator and started off in fundraising, and that, tried to hold myself accountable that 3 years, move up and on, and started as an associate AD, finished as a deputy AD, and was very fortunate to continue to move my career forward and aligned with my goals. When Mack went to the University of Missouri, I stayed on with Hunter when he became the athletic director. And it was an amazing place. My wife and I ended up getting married, and so she moved to Houston. 2 of our kids were born in Houston. And, you go from inheriting what, it's very similar to here. You see what you have, the foundation you're building off of, and what it could be. And that was our approach there. And it dominoes. Every facility, by the time we left, by the time I had left, every facility had been touched. Every program had been improved. At that point, they're in the American and well-positioned, like Boise State, to take the next step into the Power 5 at that point. And really proud of the things that we were able to accomplish. It takes a team. And you look at the new football stadium, the new basketball arena. They have a new indoor now that we built the new indoor there. There was a lot of low-hanging fruit, and you want to be at places that you can really create that legacy and impact your community and the people you serve. And I was able to do that there with some great teammates that have gone on to do some phenomenal things.
And then we're at Baylor for 3 years, from 2017 to 2020. Did Baylor reach out to you while you were at Houston, or how did that happen?
So Mack was at Missouri.
Okay.
And Hunter, when he got the job, Mack had offered me an opportunity to go to Missouri. And I believe it was for a senior associate for external. And that was my role currently at Houston. Hunter was the interim. And Hunter said, if I get this AD job, I want you to be my deputy AD. And at that point, every decision I had made was based off leadership first and foremost, and then what aligned with my goals, and it was the responsibilities. And I'm always going to bet on myself. I believed in Hunter. I love Mack. I've known Mack longer. Mack ends up leaving Missouri. I think it was after like 18 months, and he calls me and says, hey, I'm going to Baylor. And I said, you're going to Baylor? Well, mind you, at that time, they were going through a lot of difficulties around Art Briles and some of the past, they've closed that chapter and moved on, and they've done a great job with that. But he called me and very similar said, look, here are the boxes you've checked. He's always poured into me. He knew I wanted to be an AD. I had not checked the Power 5 box at that point outside of my undergrad. And I remember talking to Hunter, and it tells you the type of guy Hunter is. Hunter said, JD, what else can you accomplish here? And what's crazy, man, is I go to Baylor, and I'm going strictly because I trust Mack. I believe in him and his vision and what he's building. And I needed to get Power 5 experience. Coming out of Baylor, I got better aligned with my faith, being a better husband, a father, things that ultimately I would hope define me now more so than the title I have. And that was important to me. And it's funny how things like that happen, that I'm making a decision for one reason, that maybe God had something completely different in store for me, which was to get me on the right path. And when it changed my life, I feel like it made me a better leader and in terms of my current job. And I'm really grateful for that.
On your tenure from Baylor, you were there from, I think, 2017 to 2020 in January. And then you joined Boise State January of 21.
So I left Baylor December of 20 and got here January 21. So this process took, they called me on December 26th, the search firm did, and said, are you interested in Boise State? And I said, Absolutely. And this is after I'd sent him to voicemail a couple times. He's one of my friends, but I thought he was calling about one of our coaches. And I just wanted some time to clear my head because I knew we had a lot of work ahead of us. Coach Aranda had been hired at this point at Baylor. Coach Rule was in the NFL at that point, and I was overseeing football. And I had gotten to the place that December, which is, once again, everything happens for a reason. I remember talking to my wife and said, look, I make more than I ever thought I would make. The job means something to me. I believe in what we're building and continue to build on. I love Mac. I love Baylor, and it's okay if I don't ever become an AD. I'd put all this pressure on myself. And I'm here to lead and serve however he needs me to, and we're happy here. I said, let's call the bank and refinance the house. So I'd actually called the bank on the way to Illinois driving. And within a week, of that call, I get a call for this job. And it gives me chills to this day because I don't believe in coincidences. I think I needed to get there mentally to prepare me for this job because it is hard and it is challenging and it's extremely uncomfortable. There are very few comfortable days. And I had to get there mentally and then get a call. And it's like, yeah, I'm in shit. I thought they were going to open it up in March. Well, at that point, Harse was leaving to Auburn, and they needed someone to come in and hire a coach immediately and get going. They're in the middle of COVID. Half the department's furloughed. I mean, there were a lot of challenges. But they called me. They said, you're going to interview in the next 24 to 48 hours. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not home. I don't have a suit. And they said, don't worry, it's going to be Zoom. So everyone's heard this story. I borrowed my father-in-law's tie. I always brought a coat just in case I went and saw Northwestern or another school, just as I was building my network. And I sat in my mother-in-law's office in downtown Momence, Illinois, that has like 5,000 people. And I did my first interview with the committee, and I was horrible. I walked away. I was so bummed. It was the first time I'd ever interviewed for an AD job. It was the second time I'd ever applied for one. And that's non-traditional in our industry. And I walked away and I was bummed. I didn't put my best foot forward. And I can make a number of excuses, Zoom, whatever else, but I should have been better. But I walked away. I called my dad, and my dad said, hey, don't worry. Like, your steps are determined. Just continue to walk through the doors. And if it's meant to be, it will happen. 48 hours from that interview, I got a call from the search room, and they said, JD, I don't know what happened, but she wants to talk to you today. And that was Marlene Trump. And I said, sounds good. This was December 31st. So got the call on the 26th, and the second interview was with Marlene on Zoom, and we talked for over an hour, give or take. And I got a call back after an hour, and the search firm said, JD, they've picked you. You need to start talking to your wife and make sure you guys are all in. And that became a very interesting New Year's Eve, for us, as I had to get back in the car that next morning, and I accepted the job, got back in the car, drove back to Waco. I was in the office on Saturday, and then I told my staff, because this all happened so quickly, I hadn't really told anyone outside of Mac. And they sent a plane to come get me in Waco on that Sunday. I landed in Boise, Idaho for the first time in my life. I had never been to Boise. I'd never been to Idaho. And it's accepted sight unseen. And the rest is history. That next day, did my first press conference ever. I don't remember what I said. It was crazy, but I've come a long way. We've come a long way from that moment.
Before you got on that plane, going to Boise, Idaho, what was your first impressions of the state of Idaho? Like, what did you know about us?
So I had talked to Coach Pete. I had talked to Mark Coyle, both great people, and I knew Coach Pete a little bit. And I found out years later, just the type of person Coach Pete is, they found out about me from him. And Coach Pete's connected to everyone. He helps various coaches around the country. He's a legend. He is the GOAT, and I'm very grateful for him. And someone had told me that, how you got here was Coach Pete had heard about you, and through common connections or whatever. And as they were trying to find someone for the job, and I'll forever be indebted to him. And he's a great guy. And so I had talked to him about Boise, and he was very complimentary, spoke very highly of it. And so that was good. And then I talked to Coyle, and he did the same thing, said it's an amazing place. And now, mind you, I'm coming from Waco, so it was probably 70 degrees outside, sun up, blue skies. We get on this plane, we land in Idaho for the first time. We're getting off the plane. It's snowing. My wife's crying. My kids are like, hey, it's snow.
Cold.
It's cold. It was insane. Life comes at you fast. But everything I'd heard from the people to the community and how they embrace those that are here and the values and a lot of things that aligned with who I am, who I was at that point, and what I was leaving, because we loved Texas. We loved Waco. Great people, great community, great neighborhood. That's important to me. And I called my mentors and said, first and foremost, can I do the job? You know, and sometimes you need that extra push or confidence, because I'm human. It's like, I've never been an AD and I'm about to go to this place that has this unbelievable brand. And I knew of the football program and the success and Kellen and Coach Pete and all of that. Coach Hawk, Coach Cutter, I mean, you name it. I followed athletics. And so I knew and had followed them over the course of my career because I appreciated some of the things they were doing with a lot less. And I was at schools very similar. But my family was a priority, and you want them to be a part of it. Hindsight's everything. That I probably wasn't empathetic to, that my wife we had to find a new school for our kids. We had to find new doctors. We knew absolutely nobody. We didn't have a house. Our first, almost year and a half, I guess, we rented a house up in Hidden Springs because that was all that was really available at that time. And as luck would have it, which is a God thing, I was waiting in line. It was COVID. Everyone's like socially distanced down the street, and I'm waiting for this rental property. My wife said, I'm not coming unless we have a house, because at that point I'm like, we'll stay in an apartment.
Fair.
Yeah, fair.
Fair.
And I'm waiting. I'm like, look, I'm at this house. It's in this great neighborhood. It's beautiful out there. And I get to the door. I'm like 12th in line for this house. So, I mean, this is like an open house type deal. And I get to the door, and he says, where are you coming from? I said, Waco. He said, I went to Baylor. I said, I worked at Baylor. He said, all right, I'll call you tomorrow. Oh, and I mean, I'm telling you, like, everything happens for a reason. And I called my wife, said, we got the house, and we rented for a year to try to figure out where do we want to live. And mind you, at this point, they're still in Waco. They were in Waco for another 3 months. So I lived at a hotel right close to where we are right now by the airport, and then just was grinding at the office trying to get everything set for what's next.
And so when you put pen to paper, Boise State University, officially the athletic director, who was the first head coach out of all the departments you had your first conversation with?
Leon Rice.
It was Leon.
It was Leon. We had mutual connections, and we got connected. I'd heard great things about him, and that was my first call. And this was this was right after getting the job. The second was Spencer, who was the interim head coach, because I had to meet with the team because we didn't have a head coach and we were going out to hire one. But talking to Leon, he said, JD, I just need help. Like, I feel like it's untapped. We've done everything we possibly can to continue to elevate. We have raised the bar, but there's more that can be done, and I need a partner. And I said, Leon, I'm your guy, and, we're going to go to work. And that led to some great conversations in terms of how we strategized and planned it out and what we were doing, everything from supporting the program to recruiting to fundraising to creating a better fan experience and extra mile. And that work continues today. We're never a finished product, but Leon was the first guy and made me feel at home and really appreciate him.
Yeah, I bring up just because, coming to Boise, I'm sure you knew like football. Football's the front door of the state of Idaho, almost, as the blue turf.
Not almost.
Yeah, it is.
We are the front porch for sure.
Yeah, let's call a spade for sure. So, but you knew there was 18 other departments or 19 now with esports. Is that the case?
Correct.
So, you still managed to bring in so much viewership, all these conference titles. How do you make sure to tap into every single department? Is it kind of like, are you stirring like multiple pots at a time with like dipping into each one? Or are you focused on softball for a week, tennis for a week? Or how do you do that?
Everything counts, everything matters. And so obviously certain things rise, in terms of the opportunity. And I say opportunity a lot. Some of that may be there's an issue but I'm connecting with our staff on a daily, weekly basis. Now, I may not get to every coach, but I'm getting to someone a part of that program. And before this started, I told you I have a phenomenal team. That was part of the plan early on. I needed to surround myself with people that I could trust and that could help me lead. It takes a team, and I'm one person. So I deal a lot with our sport program administrators. Every sport program has one. For example, Cody Gogler is the sport program administrator for men's basketball. He was the secondary sport program administrator at Baylor in their national championship run. And he's someone that we had hired at Baylor, and I think very highly of him, and I knew he would do a great job. And so you start bringing in people like that. Jake Mankin, I had mentioned. There's other people in the department that you pour into, and they become an extension of me. While we've been sitting here, our softball coach just called. I met with our beach volleyball coach earlier. I talked to football almost every day. I saw some of our basketball staff. Women's basketball's in Greece, so I've been texting with our SPA, or they're on their way to Greece, I should say.
Okay.
She's in the air, so I've been texting with her. It's something that it's important to me to live out in action. If I'm going to say 18 sports, 350 plus student athletes, and it all matters, then I have to lead from the front. And so I can't always be there in person. That's something that weighs on me because I do care about them. And obviously certain sports rise because of the value to the department and revenue generation. But I want those kids to understand we care. We have high expectations for all of our sport programs. We want to compete for championships. And it starts with me and the chair that I'm fortunate to occupy. Yeah, I love our teams, and they're all doing, I mean, we just had one of the greatest years in our history. And it wasn't just football, it was all of our sport programs. And that's the expectation. When I say bar raiser, it's what's next. I envision a year that we are competing for a championship in every sport across the board. And so that's 18, now 19 with esports. And I believe we can do that. And I'm not sure, someone out there would probably tell me, I'm not sure that's ever been done. Where can you envision a Boise State across 19 sports playing in that championship for that conference championship? And look, winning's hard, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but process is important. And if we do the work and believe, that can become a reality. And you look at this last year with men's and women's tennis and gymnastics and soccer, football, basketball was in it up until the last weekend in terms of regular season champ. It is possible. We can do it. Then throw in esports. I'm really excited what the future holds for us.
Yeah, Doc's killing it over there.
He is.
Oh, my goodness.
They're elite. They are what we are in football, and it's a national brand, and Doc is such a great guy, and he cares very much about those kids, and I'm so grateful to bring them into the athletic department. Excited what we can do in that space. I feel it's untapped, and you know me well enough that we're always going to look for opportunity, and I believe Doc is the right guy to lead that program. And Riley, one of his teammates, it's his birthday today.
Happy birthday, Riley.
He's someone that I had met with before and was involved in esports and came back, and he loved it here in his previous stint. And it starts with the people. That's important to me, and we can do something epic, and everyone's locked arms and we're ready to go.
And you and your team have been absolutely crushing it. Sean, get ready for this. I got some stats for you, Jeremiah. You ready?
Good, I'm ready.
Since you have stepped foot here, we got 16 team conference championships, 26 individual conference titles, made 44 team postseason appearances and 22 as individuals, 25 All-Americans, 45 coach and student athlete conference awards, and more than 100 facility projects have been completed, while 31 are ongoing headed into this year.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Built different.
That's right. I told you we have an amazing team. You know, it's funny. I try to think, I don't live in the past, but I think a lot about it in regards to what we started with and the foundation, and getting to meet guys like Gene Blameyer and Mark Coyle and Coach Pete and Coach Cutter, who was obviously part of the staff, and Coach Hawk came through a couple times in the spring, and getting to know him a little bit. And it's amazing the foundation we're building off of, and we owe it to those individuals. However hard our days were, I guarantee it was harder for them when they first started. And there's so much more we can do. We've only scratched the surface, and that's what fires me up. That's what gets me up. I'm super competitive, and I watch what everyone else is doing, and we want to do it better. And that's the goal, and that ties into the What's Next initiative and our mentality.
And I want to kind of dive into football here. So 2023, it was a little bit of a rocky season. You know, the standard's been pretty high for the football fans, recruiting and all that. So you'd mentioned with your job, there are some difficult things.
For sure.
And I'm sure, I don't want to speak for you, but one of the more difficult things was probably, moving on from Andy Avalos. And I was just kind of curious, what made that decision difficult, and what were like the key factors that led you to make that call, with Andy Avalos being a Bronco alumni, Bronco through and through?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, what made it difficult, it isn't as much as he was a Bronco, it's that he's a person with a family and is responsible for others. And when you go into a decision like that, there is no guaranteed outcome. Obviously, I guess there's a guaranteed you're going to have another coach, but a lot of those guys, they didn't know if they were going to be a part of the program. It's not this decision that it's, all right, I'm making this decision in what I feel is in the best interest of who we are and where we want to go. It's impacting a lot of other people on our team and their families and their wives and kids, and that weighs heavily on you. It should never be comfortable going a different direction from someone. And it's not personal. It's business, and Andy's a great guy. He is a Bronco, and that was an additional layer. He's not just a Bronco, he's somewhat of a Bronco legend and had great relationships in and outside the department with donors and our staff. And that's something that this job, the responsibilities of a leader is not for the faint of heart. And you have to, I'm data driven, and you hear me say all the time, head, heart, and gut. And a lot of that ties into data and the feel of where the program's going, the culture, and knowing what's next in terms of conference realignment is always out there, and paying of student athletes and revenue share and NIL and all these different moving pieces. I take my responsibility very seriously, and that doesn't mean to shy away from difficult decisions. And so there were a lot of sleepless nights, and it's not something I wish upon anyone. It's not something that I like thinking about. I know everything happens for a reason, and Andy's always going to be a Bronco, and I enjoy watching him from afar and at TCU, and excited for him. And he's going to be a head coach again at some point. And but at that point in time, it was a decision that weighed heavily on me, but it was one I felt I needed to make, and not knowing really what that outcome was going to be. It was that was a tough. It's the toughest decision I've ever had to make to date, and that was a tough season in general to get through with that decision. Not necessarily hanging over me, but I'm also a ready aim fire guy, and once I knew, and I was gonna make it, and then it's what's next.
So then the head coach search ramps up, and throughout that whole process, Spencer Danielson ended up becoming the head coach.
Yeah.
And what made Spencer Danielson stick out from the other candidates?
So initially, and like I told you before, when I first got here, he was the interim, and he wasn't interim for all that long. Ultimately, we made the decision on Andy and hard pivot, and it's what's next. Yeah. But I had seen Spencer from afar, and I'm always taking mental note when I would go into the offices and how he'd engage, not just with me, but the staff and the support staff and the student athletes. And those are things that stick with you. I knew who he was as a person. I knew what his values were. I knew how important Rachel and his family were to him. And those are things that are important to me. But full transparency, and I've spoken publicly about it, once this decision goes down, and however difficult it is, it's what's next, and you're on to finding the next great Bronco coach. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say Andy was coach of the year and went to 3 straight bowl games. But it shows you the standard that we have and the foundation that we inherited, from people like Coach Cutter and Hawk and Coach Pete. And so I had an idea of what I wanted. But I also felt at that point in time, it was in my best interest to go outside of maybe the Bronco family. And I was very honest. Yeah, I would think my staff would say I'm really transparent. And I told Spencer, it's going to be really hard. I'll give you a chance because I love you and I care about you and I want to help your career. Spencer's a young guy. And I just, at that point in time, it just was hard for me to fathom that I would make that decision in season and pivot to someone who was on that staff and who was the defensive coordinator. And then as you go through the process, you want, as a leader, the most difficult decisions you can possibly have. That's the goal. Mm-hmm. You don't want it to be easy. You want it to be difficult because that means you're doing your due diligence and you're acquiring and all the possible data. And there's always these what ifs, and you're constantly playing this back in your mind. If I do this, it leads to this. If I do that, it could lead to that. And I'm just going through this process, and it helps me talking to others. So it wasn't much talking to the team, even though I did talk to the leadership council, and it wasn't talking to donors. It was going through a very specific process that I didn't really have the opportunity to do when I first got hired. And it was a process that I grew up with in terms of Mac and Hunter and other ADs I had been fortunate to be under. And so you hire a search firm and it's like, all right, here's what I'm looking for. Here's our salary pools. I want the best possible person for this job. And I don't care if he's a Bronco or not. I don't care if he had come through here or not. I want the best possible person. Well, you start that process, and we flew around the country. Trying to think where we went to a number of different places. I had my list. I had brought names forward. I had a committee, but I had made sure with everyone, this is going to be my decision. But I want feedback. Where do I have blinders? I asked the search firm bring forward some candidates that I want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence and making the best possible decision. And at that point, you're battling the faith over fear aspect. I've just made this decision. It's somewhat rocked Bronco Nation's world, whether people agreed with it or not. I'm getting blown up. Donors are calling. Some are upset, some whatever. When you're trying to keep the main thing. And so we go through this process, and these interviews are not an hour long. They're not on Zoom. I want to shake someone's hand. I want to look them in the eye. I want to see who they are. And we sit there. There wasn't an interview that lasted less than 3.5 hours, I think.
Wow.
And it's the committee and myself, and search firm was a part of a lot of it. And there were some that lasted 4 hours, 5 hours, because you're making such an important decision that I don't think a time frame could be put on that. And I knew that I wanted to have someone in mind after the Mountain West Championship game. Now, mind you, when we first started, there was less than a 5%, 1% chance that we could even make it to the Mountain West Championship. And once I believe we beat Utah State, and then on the way back, we found out that, was it Fresno State lost? I think New Mexico beat Fresno State.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we control our destiny. And I think we ended the season against Air Force.
Yep.
Is that right?
On the blue.
Yeah, on the blue. So when I made the decision, I'm like, look, let's, Spencer, just keep the team together. You know, it was important to me. I love those guys with all my heart, the student athletes, staff too, but the student athletes. But I said, look, if we can keep this together, I want it to, these guys had been through multiple coordinators, multiple head coaches, COVID. I believe it would have been the first freshman class that had not won a conference championship.
Yep.
So I'm like, we got to keep the bowl streak alive. Let's come out with some momentum. I'll go out and hire a guy. I'll keep you posted, Spence. We beat Utah State. The way the team responded, I'm there, and I'm taking notes. I'm watching how he's holding people accountable. A lot of times an interim coach won't. But I'm watching him grab guys and say, no, that's not what we do, and that's not how we're going to do that. And you need to whatever it was, and in Spencer's way, right? He cares about those guys. And I'm watching, and I'm like, all right. And then our team, I think we were down early in that Utah State game. I mean, it wasn't by much, but I don't know if it was 10-3 or
I would say
something like
one
that.
Possession.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this could unravel, having been a part of interim situations before. And I remember one of the guys next to me said, JD, we're okay, we got this. And how awesome is that? Because, then they come out, and I think we rolled off 4 straight touchdowns, and, just blew them out. Mm-hmm. And that was the first moment that I was like, interesting, all right, these guys responded, and they stepped up, and they're hearing Spencer, and he's leading them, and it's like, all right. But then I'm back on the plane, and I'm going to interview candidates. And I ended up interviewing. We beat Air Force. We get into the Mountain West Championship game. I had promised the team, and I promised everyone, I guess, Bronco Nation, all of the above. I promised I'm not making a decision prior to this Mountain West Championship game. Part of my reasoning was these guys had been impacted so much at that point in time. That's the last thing that I wanted to do was create a moment that was going to take away from that experience, that they were going to actually get to compete for a championship, considering how the season had gone. And this was this freshman class's last chance to win one. I interviewed Spencer that Sunday. And at that point, I had seen a lot of the data. I had gone to the Utah State game, the Air Force game. I'm around. I meet with Spencer once a week, and he killed the interview. Years, you would have thought he had been a head coach for 20 years. Really? One of the best interviews. And I remember looking at our committee, and he left. I told the committee, I said, I want to hear from you first, because I don't want my opinion to dissuade anyone or persuade. I want to hear feedback first, and then I'll give you my opinion. And we went around the table, and it's like, wow, he can do this. And he killed it in that moment of wow, Spencer, he put his best foot forward. And then I gave my opinion. I said, you're absolutely right. He can do this. And this decision just got that much more challenging. And we had some great interviews. I think every person we interviewed is a sitting head coach right now. We had great interviews, and they all wanted this job. And I won't go into who it is, respect for them and their families and teams. But that was Sunday. So then that week starts, we're getting prepared for the Mountain West Championship. And Spencer and I had that one-on-one, which is normal. I meet with him once a week, one-on-one, just talk about football and anything I need to help with and how I can better serve. And it was that Thursday at noon. And I mean, man, I had not eaten. I hadn't slept. I finally had my staff take another headshot because I looked sickly. It was like, I'm not I have a face for the radio, like I'm and I'm okay with that. But like, I was hurting and so it was weighing on me, and that decision was going to propel us forward or it would maybe be the end of me. And so you sit there and head, heart, and gut, you have all the data. There was a lot of prayer. I've said recently, like I was praying for a burning bush and I wanted a tough decision. I had a tough decision. And I get in front of Spencer that day and I wasn't expecting him to talk about the job. We were talking about Mountain West Championship and travel and what I could help with and whatever else. And he said, JD, this has been weighing on my heart and I want to speak from the heart. And if you could give me a few minutes and just hear me out. And I said, absolutely, Coach. And he starts in. And I'll try not to get emotional because it still hits you in the heart. He starts in and like from 12 to 12:15, he's just going. And at some point, it was like everything it's like the sky opened up. It's like, this is it. Like everything just aligned. And so for 15 minutes, I was locked in. And at 12:15, I had to step out and make this call. And I remember walking out of his office and I'm like, all right, like this is it. Like I made my decision. He's my guy. And at that point, I'm the only one who knows that. I go back into the meeting. We talked a little bit about football and my questions changed. Now he's never admitted. I've never asked him. I went like, all right, I heard you out because in my mind, I'm like, I'm done. I already made the decision. You're the guy. I'm not going to tell him. I'm not telling anyone at that point that doesn't need to know. I said, so like, if you were to get this position, what would you do here? Like I flipped some of the questions that hindsight, he could probably tell like, all right, yeah, he had made the decision. And I remember leaving that meeting. It was in Blademeyer. I went back to my office and I called the president. I said, I made the decision. I'm hiring Spencer. It's on a need to know basis. Like some people will be aware of the committee and then I need to get my ducks in a row in terms of announcement. I'm not announcing prior to this game and I will do it Sunday morning. And so that Thursday afternoon, I got a very small group together and said, this is what we're doing. This is what I'm paying. This is like, I went through the whole thing. We will announce on Sunday and we'll have to get our ducks in a row in terms of getting the team and whatever else. And I got questions like, well, JD, what if we lose Saturday? I said, I don't care. That's why I wanted to make the decision prior to the game because I didn't want that human piece of like, the wah-wah of the momentum and whatever else. I said, win or lose, he is our guy. And that's the direction I'm going with. And I had told multiple people, so you can check me on it, but I had made the decision. And going into that game, everyone knows because I try to be honest and I'm terrible at secrets. Yeah. And so they're like, JD, you can't say anything. Like, don't allude to anything. I'm like, I won't.
You're just like this the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Well, what was funny is we go into that game, great game, we win, right? Mm-hmm. And after the game, I mean, the emotion sets in. I hadn't eaten. I was like dying. Because of just the weight of that decision. And my wife was there and the motion comes out and you're just like, so like, wow, like who could have drawn that up, man? Yeah. Like that's insane. You go from this moment of like the world's ending and I got to stop the bleeding and I got to figure out how to fix this to now all of a sudden we're winning a Mountain West Championship. I've in my mind have named this guy as our coach and I don't want to give it away. And so everyone's watching me and I'm trying not to be different, but after the fact, people are like, oh, JD, like you wouldn't talk to us. You wouldn't look at us, because I was like locked in, I'm not going to say anything. And I remember getting off the plane when we got back to Boise, because obviously we were in Vegas. Mm-hmm. We get back to Boise and Rachel was there, Spencer's wife. And I said, hey, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. And that was my way of like hopefully relieving some pressure because I would never call him and his wife in to say you didn't get the job. So my wife, I walk away and she hits me. She's like, I can't believe you said that. And because she's worried that like I've let him know. And I called Spencer that next morning at 7 or something. I said, hey, let's meet at the office. 8:39. I knew he was going to go to church. And Please bring Rachel. And he's like, oh, she'll have the kids. It will just be me. I said, all right. And I met him at the office and told him, you're my guy. And I want you to know it had nothing to do with you winning that game. Like, I made the decision on Thursday after we talked. And it's just amazing, man. Everything happens for a reason.
That's
long-winded. I'm sorry. I told you I'm a talker, but
no, that was incredible. That was really incredible. That story, very detailed. You're a good storyteller.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if anyone's ever told you that.
What was cool is this was probably a year later. Rachel asked me. She said, "What time was that meeting?" And I said, "It was 12 to 1, but this was 12 to 12:15. 12:15 is when I made the decision." She said, "Jeramiah, we were all in all the family, because we all knew Spencer was going to be sharing his heart with you, and so we were all praying." And I'm telling you, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the feeling. And it's at that point, you make the decision, then it's what's next. And that was once I told Spencer and then I told the staff, the student athletes, I love them, but it wasn't top of mind of like my staff's like, all right, JD, now we need to go tell the staff. And that's the video that's out there. And I'm walking down the stairs and I'm like, I hadn't even thought about what I'm going to tell these guys. Yeah. So I'm just shooting from the hip, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
You crushed that too. And he is your new head coach.
Yeah. I was worried about Tubner, man. He had lit me up a couple times in the press conferences when people would ask him, and he's such a great Bronco, and he kept that team together among others. But that was a cool moment.
Absolutely, a moment we will never forget.
Yeah.
And you're active on social media.
Yeah.
For an athletic director, I love it. Always commenting, retweeting. The fire emojis, the hourglass emojis.
Yeah.
And everyone knows you by the hashtag what's next. And I know you've mentioned it a couple times, but I was just curious, like, for people that don't know, what is next? Jeramiah Dickey, what does that mean?
So it means a number of things, and I'm pretty vocal about how we're moving forward and what that road looks like. Obviously, we have the Pac-12 and that transition. We're going through that. Grateful for the Mountain West, and can't say enough things about them, positive things about them. But this is our last year in the conference, and we're in building mode, and there's a lot of work ahead of us. And when you look at the Pac-12 and what we want it to be, yes, there's the brand piece, but it's the actual process is being defined right now, and what that's going to look like. And I'm really excited about that. That's new for me in my career. I've been through realignment before, but not necessarily in this role. So I'm excited to see what July 1st, 26 looks like. A lot of the work is being done now. And so we have that ahead of us. The North End Zone facility is on its way. Those guys are rolling. I can't say enough about Nate Burke and Jordan and Chris and Cody. And a number of teammates are involved. And then the patience of our staff, because it's obviously Albertson Stadium. We've had concerts, and there's a lot. We have a lot of balls in the air, and that's usually how I operate. And so really appreciate them stepping up, but we are in line with our timelines. And you think about going to the Pac-12 July 1st to 26, and then the North End Zone opening up sometime early August of 26, and then you're into the season again. So we have a lot of work ahead of us on that. And then I've somewhat hard pivoted to what can we do with the east side of the stadium. I've been pretty vocal about, and I probably should apologize. Like, I say private equity, that's kind of an all-encompassing statement for me, but it's really not private equity per se. It's private capital, private credit. I can't take my business plan to ICCU down the street and say, hey, look, this is going to work, and I need X amount of dollars to invest back into the department. We're a state institution, and so there are ways to do that. So my job is to find solutions. And if we're at debt capacity, or what does that look like from a bonding standpoint? And obviously there's a fundraising piece, but we need that influx of cash so we can invest. And I hear the East Side, patrons are Bronco Nation on that side. The East Side is old and it needs to be updated. And so we're looking at overbuilds. We're looking at different options with public-private partnerships, private credit, private capital, potentially creating an entertainment district, anything we can do to better our situation. Every dollar counts, and we've grown accustomed to stretching dollars, but we can't sometimes take that blue-collar mentality that we live by literally. Mm-hmm. You got to spend money to make money, and we got to create more assets. And so I've been working with whether it's donors or my team to figure out what does this look like if we pivoted to the East Side, and what is the best path forward, and for us to provide those options. And then I lean on my teammates, and I'm very grateful for that. And We have some big decisions ahead of us, but, this is a big year for us. We can't stop. And then in addition to that, we're looking at Extra Mile Arena. We have, quite honestly, it's withstood time. I mean, it's not a bad facility at all. When you're inside and you're on the floor, it's a great facility. There are things that we can upgrade, though. It's one of the few facilities we don't have premium space. We have 4 seats, and we've added more, but we don't have club seats. We don't have loge boxes. We don't have club spaces. We use like closets and whatever else, and donors are great, and that ties into being blue collar, but we have to monetize every single asset to the highest level we possibly can. And you look at selling out season tickets last year, you look at the trajectory of the program and the success Leon and that staff and those kids have had. You look at us going into the Pac-12 and the Zags and San Diego State and Colorado State and Utah State. And I mean, it's an elite basketball conference. It's going to be elite football conference. We have to monetize Extra Mile differently. And so we're working on some plans in regards to that. A lot of it is in the dream phase. We had come out with the playbook for success, and there were some things it was already public. It's going to be potentially similar to that, but we have to stretch our dollars and figure out how do we create the best fan experience, the best student athlete experience, and create more revenue for us to invest back into the program. We had been public about the Aux Gym. That's an additional project. How do we improve from a recruiting standpoint, and how does that impact not just men's and women's basketball, but what about gymnastics? What about volleyball? Extra Mile, there are opportunities to start having volleyball games in Extra Mile, and that's something that we're looking at. It's better concessions. Once again, the more we can monetize our sport programs, the better off we're going to be. And so there's quite a bit ahead of us. And then there's obviously what we're navigating from a national standpoint. When you look at revenue share, which is really an expense, and what that means for us, and this idea of Power 4 versus group of 6, and I've been pretty public about that. You mentioned social media. I think that's part of a leader's job, and it's to push back when you disagree. And I disagree with how we're defined. I disagree with the parameters that haven't been defined for us in terms of what does it mean to be a Power 4. And those are things that it's my job to continue to be vocal about that and make sure that I'm doing everything I possibly can for the sake of our institution, which is the front porch of this state. And I see the economic impact that we are having on our community. And I see the growth, as you and I were talking about, the community in general, from what's being developed and the downtown area. And every time someone comes in new to visit us, we just had some friends come from Waco, Cody and I did, and they came in, and he texted me after. He said, JD, I love Boise. And it's not a secret anymore. Maybe it was. Maybe people are upset that it's not. I don't know. But to me, I see that growth as an opportunity for us to continue to invest into the front porch of Idaho. And there's more work to do, and the ideas are endless. I'm an idea guy. My staff probably doesn't like it as much. But there's so much more that we can do, and that excites me. I'm more excited today than when I arrived.
I want to go back to the Extra Mile Arena with some of the plans that you've been doing and you're thinking of. So recently, this basketball season, the camera angle has changed. It's moved down a little bit. Did you notice that?
I'm always at the game, so I don't watch on TV, but I have heard from some fans on social about that camera angle.
Did you make that decision?
That was part of our team.
Okay.
I believe it was our comms and creative in conjunction with the conference and some of our partners, CBS and whoever else, to have a better camera angle.
I want to shake their hand.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of positive feedback. Obviously, it disrupted a few seats, and so there were some things to learn in that process. But I think that ties in, Ryan, in general to our mentality. Like, we're going to continue to. And it could be little things like a camera angle. Like, it doesn't seem like a massive thing, but we're telling a story, and we represent something so much bigger than ourselves. And so something like that, that's easy. Like, that's low-hanging fruit. And there's so many other opportunities like that tied to lights and video boards and premium space. And I want us to be the go-to for anyone in this community that's looking for something to do, whether they're a Bronco or not. If you're in this community, we are the front porch, and we have T-shirts for you, and we will adopt you. And I think that's also been really cool with this Pac-12 transition. We have so many, Oregon State, Washington State. I was driving the other day and I sent a picture of the Fresno State AD. There was a car with like the bulldog on the back. And the only reason I noticed it, my 6-year-old was like, we hate them. And I'm like, hey, who?
Whoa,
like,
hey,
what's
whoa.
going on? And it's because he saw the bulldog and he knows. He's like, we hate them. And so I'm friends with AD at Fresno State. He's doing a great job. But it's so cool to see the people moving into this community and the opportunities we're going to provide them. And that's a part of being on a team and what we represent.
That is just awesome stuff. And the Pac-12 was that's so exciting. And I've lived here my whole life. And even growing up when I was in middle school, everyone's like, we belong in the Pac-12 or, maybe, we were in the WAC at the time. So we're like Mountain West. And then we made that leap. And then now the Pac-12 is officially here. And Jeramiah, what ultimately made that decision for you? And like, when did you know it was the right time for Boise State to make that jump?
So when I first got here, we had taken some calls. Conference realignment's been going on for a while. And my job is to try to stay ahead of it and be the best you possibly can where your feet are, but then also think about what's next. And so it was always top of mind, or maybe back of mind was a better way of saying it, of, what could be. And the path to, if we're going to define it as Power 4, the path is, I look at the TCU model and they just kept moving up. And I wanted to position us to be able to do that. We know the industry's changing. It's getting extremely difficult for the group of 6. We know that we have a ticket for this train, and we have to make a decision as a community, as a state, as an institution, as a department. Do we want on this train? And when I look at what the Pac-12 represents, just the brand in and of itself and the story, that's important to me. I know we are a national brand. We've proven it over and over, and we do a lot more with less than anyone in the country. And I'll put our team in against anyone in the country. I mean, that's just our mentality. And that's not talking down to anyone else, nor is it talking down to the Mountain West. I see opportunity. And as I told you before, my job is to create the assets to continue to fund the model. And we needed to create more opportunity. And you look at a situation with the Pac-12 that when you can align with institutions that want more, and that are continuing to elevate and invest, and fans are showing up, and there's a history of success. And then you're also betting on what someone could be. And I think we're all somewhat looking in the mirror saying, all right, with this move, what's next then? And that's something that I think about a lot. We still have a lot ahead of us. All to say, I don't believe in status quo. I don't believe in settling. That's just that's not who I am as a person. And if I see opportunity and I think it's going to better our situation, I'm going to take that opportunity. And I'm going to bet on myself, and I'm going to bet on our team. And if it fails, I'll take responsibility. If we get success in this, everyone else gets it. And I think that's the job of an AD and me as a leader.
And with where college sports is heading right now, you've got the perfect mentality. It just seems like it's eat or be eaten right now.
Right.
Financially, and I feel like you're making all the right things happen. And so I think that's the mentality to have with you and your team. And kind of piggybacking next question here, like, if you had one wish, Jeramiah, that would be granted true, being the athletic director at Boise State, what would you wish for?
Additional funding. Additional funding.
True.
Yeah, Bronco Nation has stepped up. It takes a team, and I'm really grateful. We're selling out games. We're going to sell out 6 games again this year. I'm pretty sure that's the first time in our history. There's so much opportunity here. And it's on me to be able to tell that story appropriately. And change is inevitable. And we have a choice. We have a seat at this table. And we are holding a really good hand. And we've proven it with CFP. And I look at Leon, and I understand what the expectations are, but there wasn't a history of success in basketball per se. Not like football. There were times, but going to back-to-back NCAA tournaments for the first time in however many years, and then doing it for a third time. And yes, last year we were one of the first 4 out, right? But that just shows you we are bar raisers, and there are high expectations, and that pressure is a privilege. And I know that we don't need what everyone else has, but I know what we're competing with, and I want it to be as important to me as as important to everyone else as it is to me and our team. I hope Bronco Nation knows, this summer, you and I were talking about the seasonality of this job. It's one season, it's 24/7. And, to see my team and how they grind and how they're showing up, and in those moments that I'm down and they're in my office saying, JD, we can do this. Like, what's next? And it gives me chills. Like, that makes it all worth it. You know, it's process over outcome, and we need a lot more people to be a part of that process. And my job is to go out and do it, and our team is stepping up, and Bronco Nation is stepping up, and there's more opportunity ahead of us.
What does Jeramiah Dickey like to do in his free time when he's not working?
So I love my wife and kids, and, you know, I'd made the choice a long time ago that I'm going to prioritize my life with God first and foremost, my family, and this job. And if I get to, you know, maybe priority 4, which is me, you know, I enjoy. Nothing makes me more happy than going out. You know, last night I was throwing the ball with my kids, my 2 boys, and my daughter was out there and she was on a skateboard. Like, that fills my bucket. You know I have limited time with them, and, you know, I know what this job takes from them. And so anytime that I get with them, going to McCall this summer and spending 2 weeks, and still being able to do my job and not get, I wasn't too far to be totally disconnected, but I was disconnected enough that I had some great time with my wife. And you know, when you're going 24/7 and I get home and these are long days, and my wife does so much for our family, you know, I couldn't, you know, God willing, she never leaves me, because I have no idea where anything is. And she runs the house like I run a department. And I'm just really grateful. She makes, you know, my kids play every sport. My daughter's in dance. They're the school activities, the PTA type stuff. You know, she steps up and fills the gap when I'm not there, and that weighs on me. You know, I have dad guilt and husband guilt, but I spend a lot, as any waking moment that I have that I'm not doing something around this job, I am with them. And, you know, I try to run and disconnect. You know, I put on some LBs this summer. You know, I need to go and start my August detox. But I try to run. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I look a lot better than I did, you know.
When you weren't eating.
Yeah. When I was dying a slow death. But, you know, I try to go run, and we ride a lot of bikes. My kids like fishing, you know. You know, I love that they're in sports. I love just supporting them, and you know, those are important pieces. And then I also have a couple groups that I'm close with that they don't view me as the athletic director, and that's something that, you know, it took some getting used to. You know, when you're the number 2 or anything below that, no one really cares who you are. They know you work for the institution, whatever. Then all of a sudden you become an AD, and especially in a place like this, and there's not many places I can go that someone's not, you know, hey,
Mr.
you know, why did they call this, or what, or thanks for doing that. I mean, most of it is positive, but that is different for me. That hasn't been part of, you know, that's not something that I say like, oh yeah, it's great being an AD because of. That it's taken some getting used to, and so anytime I can connect with, you know, I got a couple of Bible study groups and men in the community that pray for me and you know, and help me in moments where I just need to go walk and, you know, talk or whatever, because one thing you learn as a leader, you know, I have to be what everyone else needs me to be in those moments, and my job is to connect and make sure I'm checking in and make sure I'm leading appropriately. There aren't many people that, you know, like when they say it's lonely at the top, like I understand what they mean. You know, you're sitting on barbed wire, no matter what decision I make, someone's upset. It impacts people and their lives and their families. And, you know, that can become heavy sometimes. And, fortunately, there's a lot more good days than bad, and you know, so sometimes it's nice to depend on some people in the community. Some are supporters of us. Some, like, they go to games because I may, you know, invite them or whatever. But to be able to connect to them and for them to say, hey, how are you doing? You know, not how is Spencer doing or the football team, or are we going to win a, you know, championship, whatever. Like, it's how are you doing? And I know you've been traveling a lot or whatever, and that goes a long way for me. But it takes a team, and I have a lot of people around me who care about me, and I'm grateful for that.
Is it safe to say one of the more difficult times being the athletic director here at Boise State is when you had the Stye on your right eye? Was that a tough time?
It was a tough time. I had to do what was that press conference I did?
Announcing we went to the Pac-12, I think.
Oh, was it? Yes, it was the
was.
Pac-12. That was such a God, it hurt. I'd never had a Stye, and I'm like, what is going on? Yeah, that thing lasted like a month, and then you become self-conscious, you know. Maybe I shouldn't have been, whatever. Like I couldn't control it, but yeah, that was a challenging time, you know. Yeah, that was funny.
You were just like, you know, there's a special place in heaven for people that have a Stye on their eye.
I don't remember anyone laughing either, but I thought like I was so like going into that. I remember telling Allie, you know, who's awesome. I'm like, I can't believe like we're about to announce this and I have this thing coming out of my face and it hurts so bad. Yeah, that was funny. You know, thank God I've never had a Stye before. That was the first time I've had it, and thank God I haven't had one since. Now they did say once you get one, like maybe you're gonna have it again. So God willing, that doesn't happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never had one, but I was like, man, he's making it seem like I never want. I don't wish that upon anyone.
It was so bad, and it's just disgusting too. You know, I feel so. I'd never had one, so like maybe there was a little bit of judgment in me when I would see others. Like, man, I wouldn't go outside, but then you have jobs and you have one, and then I'm like, oh, I feel so bad that I judged anyone who has this because you can't do anything about it. It's like you want to cut your eye out. Like, I'm done with this. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I can't believe you. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
I'll tip my cap.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's going to be like, when was this? Like,
yeah. Oh no. Yeah. And it kept over the course of I had it had to be 6 weeks. And I just remember, I'm like, is that like, how am I getting pimples at this age? Like, what is going on? And then it just kept getting bigger. And then all of a sudden it becomes a full on Stye. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have meetings with donors and, you know, we have this announcement and like, you know, it's probably the stress, you know, that was a tough couple weeks. Just not tough, but it was just stressful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Lay off the stress, folks. There you have it.
Yeah.
So Sean's gonna get a kick out of this as well. We did like a rate the tailgate.
Okay.
Around like Albertson Stadium. I think it was the Utah State game this year.
Okay.
And we asked the fans, this question. So I want to get your opinion on this. How many 10-year-olds do you think it would take to tackle Ashton Jeanty?
Oh, that's like that. What's that? Was it out on social? Like, you know, could you beat up a bear?
Or 100 men versus the one gorilla.
Gorilla. It was a gorilla. Yeah.
It's equivalent, yeah.
I don't know. Ashton's such a nice guy, like that, you know, maybe it wouldn't take all that many because he would feel bad.
He'd be like, okay, fine.
All right. He would just go down just for the sake of the kids. But I don't, man, 1,000. You know, I have an 11-year-old and I have a 9-year-old. And, there's no possible way. Ashton he's like a Greek god. He's a beast. And, you know, and I wish him many blessings. You know, I always hate the Raiders, but I'm a Cowboys fan and they're horrible. So, you know, my kids are all into Raiders and, you know, that's, they all got jerseys. So I guess we're Raiders now.
Yeah. Hopefully.
But my daughter loves the Lions and I'm like, I texted him Ed the other day and sounds like he had I didn't get to watch the game, but he had a great first preseason game and I think it was against Matlock.
Chargers.
Yeah. And to see him go, you know, both ways, it's really cool to see these guys like when you first meet them and just how they grow and mature and, you know, they're like your kids, you know, and then you like send them out in the world and hope you did your best. And, you know, you couldn't ask for, Bronco Nation could not ask for better men and women in our program that represent them upon leaving here. I'm really proud to, you know, that's one of those proud moments as an athletic director.
Absolutely. And Sean, what were you going to say about Ashton?
We had someone when we did the tailgate thing. Someone had said like, "Oh, he's going to give up after 30 kids because he's a kind soul or something." Like that.
Yes. There you go.
That was the best answer.
Yeah. No, it would have to be 1,000 kids. He's.
Yeah. I mean,
he's a beast.
If no one in Division I could take him down, it's like,
right.
I mean,
right.
What do you have? Like 1,400 yards after contact?
Correct.
That's absurd.
Which I think. Well, at some point I forgot because they were tracking like Ashton's totals then after contact, and the after contact was first for the majority of the year. Now I don't know if Scattaboo or those other guys passed him the after contact, but it's those moments that, you know, while you're going through it, you're not thinking like it's going to end, but at some point everything ends. And you look back and how awesome for us to experience him and that team and the run that they made. Those are moments that I tend to always look forward and not necessarily live in the moment, which is a challenge. But that's coming out of last year. Like, one thing I'm taking away is enjoy those moments, because we may never see another player like him. And I mean, the closest thing to him was Barry Sanders, and that was 40 years ago, however long that was. Like, yeah, we may never see another guy like that in our lifetime. And so cool to be a part of that, and I still believe he's the Heisman.
Thank you. I was going to say it if you didn't.
Yeah, no, yeah. But look, everything happens for a reason, and knowing Ashton, he's going to use that as fuel, and
Yep.
he's going to go prove everyone wrong, and I'm really excited for him.
Me too. That is incredible stuff. And the Raiders, Pete Carroll,
Yeah.
a whole new coaching staff in Vegas. Hopefully he's the number
Yeah.
2 that they remember, not Jamarcus Russell. Yeah.
You better knock on wood. No,
No, Ashton will crush it. I'm confident.
Oh, he will. And you couldn't ask for a better, like you said, staff for him to be under. You know, it's everything happens for a reason, and
Yeah.
he's where he needs to be, and just great kid, great family. I'm really excited. You know. And for all of our guys, I know we have some guys in camp, and you know it's cool to see Broncos performing at that level. You know, my kids still, you know, Shaq and the Bills, you know, which is hard, man, for a Cowboys fan. Like, I grew up in a family that, like, you're a fan of a team, and that is what it is. And my kids wearing Buffalo Bills gear, and I'm like, I hate them. Like, you know, but Shaq's another one of those guys that just a phenomenal human being. Like, he's just the salt of the earth, and good for him. He got paid this offseason, so
Yes.
I'm proud of him. He's earned it.
Special talent.
Oh, and we knew it. And so when he first came out, and people kind of dogged him, and it's like, just watch, like he's a grinder. And last year what he did was impressive, and he earned that contract, and I'm excited for him. And now I guess I'm a Bills fan too, which, you know, it's a tough time in the Dickey household.
I was to say, it could be a good filler, because, hey, I'm a Saints fan, and it's not going to be a great year.
Yeah. Now
But
you got Kellen, though.
I am very excited for Kellen.
Yes, how awesome is that? Like,
So full circle.
He's such a great guy. Yeah, it's good for him too. He's earned that.
Yeah. I want the Saints to be so good. And I know they'll give him some time, because they're going through a rebuild, and I think he's the guy for it.
For sure. Well, and what's his name? He retired, right? Like right after, who's the quarterback? The Fresno State.
Or Derek Carr. Yeah.
He retired like right after Kellen, you know.
Yeah, like a month after.
Yeah, like
So
a
he's
month
like-
after. So there's, you know, I think the Saints will give him time. Kellen's the right man for it, and so we'll be pulling for him. There's quite a few teams that we're going to be pulling for here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jeramiah, it is 7:20.
There's a lot to cut from this. We're going to have to.
So, yeah, I was going to say, you know what? Sometimes time slips away, but we made it to the end.
I got a question.
Sean, yes, please.
Okay, Mr. Dickey, are you aware of what
JD.
Okay, sorry. JD.
Upper Decky Dickey.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the Zins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you familiar with a burner account on Twitter? Or know what that is?
I do know what a burner account is.
Okay.
I do not have one.
Okay, no worries.
I also don't have a fake one, which is I'm grateful for.
Do you have a Boise State burner account that you think is the funniest, the one that you laugh at the most? Is there a specific one you can think of
On Twitter.
on Twitter?
God, but I haven't seen him in a while. Like, there was one, I think Andy had one for a while, and then did Spencer have one?
Yeah, it's like fake Spencer Danielson or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I just see what comes into my feed, and, you know, I must not be following him or her or whoever's doing it.
Yeah.
Is it you guys?
No.
No. I was just curious.
I
if
see
there
where
was-
the
'cause
question
there's some good ones, and
Give me a good one, and I'll do it. You had mentioned earlier, like, social media was such a benefit to me, because I got here during COVID, so the staff was home. I wasn't able to do like normal donor type events, and you know, just based on all the parameters and protocols that we were having to follow, and so social media was my access, you know, to Bronco Nation. So, yeah, send me a couple that you think I should be following.
Yeah, there's a couple.
A true
gentleman.
Yeah, a true gentleman,
one.
but spelled like genty, like gentle.
Yeah, but that's a burner. I do follow. I see him. That one's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, a burner counts as really anyone that doesn't have their real name.
Oh,
attached to
okay.
it. So
yeah, I would say that one. I think he's funny.
He's a good one.
I'm assuming he's funny. He puts out some stuff that I like. I'm trying to think of. There's a few. Okay, so I know what you're saying. Like I don't like. To me, put your picture and your name, and you know there are a lot of fake ones. You know, maybe my favorite is I'm not sure I'm allowed to say this because I don't want to offend anyone, but the Idaho one, Rack. I'll just say Rack. He is always.
Yes.
He's always on me about scheduling Idaho, and you know I've kind of developed a rapport with him, and you know I don't know who it is, but I think he is pretty funny, and he responds to a lot of my stuff, and you know there's some give and take, but you know he disappeared for a little while, and then he came back this summer, so
I think he took a little hiatus.
Yeah.
It was like okay, I need to just
that one I think is pretty good, and. Most of our fans, though, they put their name behind it, and I appreciate it. They don't always agree with what we're doing or why, but I appreciate the conversation, and it's amazing how many ideas I take from people that, you know, offer them up. Like we have not necessarily blinders, but we're moving quickly, so people will question, like, JD, why aren't you guys doing this? And I'll ask my team, like, hey, have we thought about this? And it's like, no, that's a good idea. Like,
oh yeah, okay,
let's do it. So I appreciate the conversation. Social's been very beneficial to us and in telling our story.
Boise State Twitter's it's a fun time sometimes, and sometimes everyone, I don't know, it's like depending on like how the team is, it's like the stock. It's like for
sure. But the thing is once you connect, like I'm not one to run from like, oh, we're doing good, so I'm gonna connect with everyone, and then when we're losing, like that's the time you have to step in and face some of it. And so I think we do a pretty good job in general. Our fan base is awesome. You know, you're always gonna have, you know, I've muted a few. I don't block people, but I mute them. Good. You know, because that's the devil face I always put out. It's smiling at the energy vampires. You know, I'm a positive guy, and we have a choice. We can be negative or we can be positive, and I always try to find the positive. And so when people are consistently negative, you know, they usually get muted. You know, I don't want to engage with that. I'll answer it a couple times, but then after a while, it's insanity.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I think your top 3 emojis, you know, when you have like the recent emojis, like your most recent that you've used.
Yeah.
Yours has to be, the purple devil smiling, hourglass, and then the fire.
Oh, yeah.
That has to be it.
That is, and there may be some unicorns because my daughter will text some people. So that's not me. I've never used it.
But if we see them.
Let's see. Praying fire, devil.
Hourglass. Yes.
The hands, the guy with the hands, you know, that's shrug. Usually me, you know, trying to be sarcastic to a stupid question.
Why not us?
You know.
Why not us?
The sheep, the goat, the lion, because I'll put out stuff about don't be a sheep.
Okay, be a lion.
The airplane.
Yeah.
You know, just my flights.
Off to Vegas, #what's next.
Yeah. So, yeah, you got all of them.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, the 100. Yeah.
I've started to use them a little because it's amazing. You know, it's taken off. Like, I think I had, you know, I didn't have that many followers when I got here, and obviously started using it because of COVID more so than I did at previous places. And no one cared what I said at the other places. Now, all of a sudden, I say whatever I say, it's like, oh, my God. But it's been hugely beneficial. You know, it gives me an opportunity because I try to do more media and things like this and podcasts, and, you know, I want to be available. You know, I don't think of myself too highly. You know, I love what I do, and I love that I get to represent Bronco Nation, and I want to face the good and the bad, you know, and continue to tell our story and hopefully be of value to our department and our program. So
I love that. And that's a perfect segue to wrap up the show. So usually every single guest I have here, I'll have them look in this camera here and just give like one brief message for you with the upcoming season, with all the sports. If there's one message you got for anyone watching, whether Bronco Nation, folks just in Boise, Idaho, or even around the country, what to look forward to for just Bronco athletics.
Yeah, it's probably going to be consistent with what I say publicly. It's always what's next, and it's 1-0. I'm most concerned with not concerned. I'm most excited about USF, and for us to be ranked for the first time, I think since 2018 to start a year, that is something that Bronco Nation should take a lot of pride in. And we will sell out 6 games, and so you better get your season tickets. And I don't care if it's season, single, you better get your tickets, because when they hit the secondary, the value is going to go up. And that's important to us. That's important to our brand. And as I started this with, it's always what's next.
163 is what's next, folks. We don't know who the guest is yet, but make sure, like the video, subscribe, follow Jeramiah Dickey on Twitter. He is great with social media. Check out the merch link in the comment section, and also give to the Bronco NIL Fund. And also, Jeremiah's one wish was for more funding. Let's make it happen. Let's all come together as a city in Boise and make that happen. So, yeah, until next time, guys, you guys have a good one. Take it easy, and peace.